Hey everybody, I just got done taking a hike. I am exhausted, but I wanted to talk about a little experience I had recently. So, anybody that's familiar with me, that follows me, I'm sorry for repeating this over and over, but this is for anybody new engaging in my content. I had a mental breakdown early last year, and long story short, I've been through very big transformations in my life, and I am also a huge lover of film. So I have been watching or rewatching movies that always spoke to me when I was younger or just throughout my life in general, and realizing that all these things just have so much more meaning or different meaning than what I initially thought. So take Castaway, for instance. I feel like Castaway has always been a film that gets highly clouded in what its true meaning is because of its very sad love story. And I feel like, especially during the time that it came out, I think overall we just get very distracted with the Wilson and the love story of it all, that we don't see the obvious meaning of transformation behind it. I recently had my sister and her daughters, or my nieces, over because I wanted them to watch the movie. Well, I wanted my nieces to watch the movie and see what they thought of it. But overall, we ended up having this discussion about how this film is about a much needed transformation for the main character of Chuck, played by Tom Hanks. I can very much relate to being a workaholic and dedicating my life to work, especially when I've been in leadership positions, and just completely focused on all the wrong things. Chuck is very much focused on all the wrong things. He is very addicted to work, and his counterpart, which I don't remember her name right now, is also very hyper-focused, I believe, on her education, and it's leading them both to live very busy lives where, especially her character, isn't too pressed on the fact that he is always traveling and working and leaving at a moment's notice. But cut to their partying on, I believe, Christmas, talking about reuniting on New Year's. He leaves her with an engagement ring and gets on a plane that ultimately ends up crashing. So also something I never took too much note of before, even in my own rewatching it by myself. Now there's a moment at another time when he's on a plane in the beginning of the movie, and a pilot is asking his friend and coworker how his wife is doing, because his wife, I believe, has some sort of cancer. And Tom Hanks's character Chuck looks so very uncomfortable listening to that conversation, and I think it's just the overall concept of death and dying, which apparently is not something that he likes to think about, because he just looked very uncomfortable and very awkwardly afterwards presented to his friend that he might know somebody that his wife could go to get, another look at what her illness is and if they can cure it. But it's just very uncomfortable. But anyways, yes, cut to, he's on the plane, it crashes, and he goes through this whole journey of survival. He quickly picks up on the fact that he's going to need to survive, because he's very aware of the situation and where his plane was perceived to be going and where it could have potentially crashed, and he was aware that he was very far off from that path. He immediately picks up, does what he does best. He is a leader, he works hard, he's navigating all the hard things, how to survive, what to eat, what to drink, how to fish. And we just watch him go through this whole journey, and, cut to 4 years later, he's still on this island. He's talking to a ball. He comes across an opportunity to build a stronger raft with this more durable and survivable attachments to it. Oops, sorry, I had to readjust there. But yes, he builds a raft. He gets back home and is met with the harsh reality that the person he loved, the person who just the thought of her got him through that whole experience on the island, she is now married with a child, and whatever future they were going to have together is done. It's sad. It really is heartbreaking, which I can understand why this sad romance aspect gets most of the attention in this movie. But overall, just like in this discussion I was having with my sister and my nieces, that relationship was never going to work the way that it was. He was obsessed with work. Eventually she would have been done with school. Eventually she would have wanted to have kids, or they would have had kids, and he would have still been overly consumed with his work life and would have been probably a crap husband and a crap father. And things like this happened. This happened to me in the sense that I was focused on all the wrong things in life, and I was tearing myself apart until the universe straight up stopped me and made the choice for me to start over. Just like it did with Chuck, the universe made a decision for him to stop him in his tracks in a very hard-hitting, drastic manner, but stopped him nonetheless. Sometimes we can just keep going and going and going, living a life that is not as fruitful to us as we think that it is, until the universe intervenes and shows us that this isn't really the way to be. Chuck had to unfortunately go through that experience of crash landing on an island by himself, being by himself, not surrounded by people, and going through this transformation journey on his own. He comes back and he tells the woman he was in love with that he never should have gotten on that plane, but if he had never gotten on that plane, he would have never become the person that says, I should have never gotten on that plane. He wasn't that same person, so he was always going to get on that plane. And she's living a different life and a different path than she thought she would, but she's probably happy in that. She said she didn't continue with school or learning her practice or what have you because, with him crashing and being lost and or dead, that derailed her life plans and things changed for her, and it changed for her in a way that she became a wife and a mother and built a family. So, which I think, just like I said, is something that was inevitably going to happen to her anyways. It just happened in a different way. So, Castaway, as silly as it sounds for me to say that this is a transformation story, because it should be obvious, but it's not. It gets lost and muddled in all the wrong things. But Castaway is a transformation story. And I also take it as an example of the way that the universe can stop you in its tracks and show you what the real meaning of your life is if you don't get the chance to get to it yourself. And very similar to like what my sister was saying when we were having this discussion about the movie, She's like, we often get these small moments of self-reflection and these moments of going deeper and seeing something for what it really is, or seeing something with new eyes. She goes, and then, we don't always run with that thought or that self-reflection moment, and then we just keep continuing with something that might not be the best thing for us or might be harmful, and we don't make changes after that reflective moment, and they can end up being moments like that where it's learning the hard way, so definitely a lesson in more self-reflection, more honesty with yourself, more looking deeper into the root of your daily life or problems, or focusing just truly on what is most important to you in your life and how to amplify that so that it doesn't get lost in all the wrong things, like overworking a job that does not truly fulfill you or does not bring harmony into your life, things like that, right? I just wanted to bring that up and maybe give Castaway a rewatch. Maybe it'll spark something in your own thoughts of what you're doing, and do you feel fulfilled? Are you focused on the wrong things and need to readjust and recalibrate, But I thought this was very important to share with my nieces, although my youngest niece was very distracted and focused on the fact that Chuck's love interest had cheated multiple times in her eyes, because she counts her getting married to somebody else as cheating, and all the times that she kissed Chuck afterwards at the end of the movie was also cheating. I was cracking up because both of my nieces were like, she cheated. Which I love it, because no matter what, anytime I've watched this movie, I'm always like, just based off my own personal things, I've just always been like, dude, you couldn't wait longer? And then you're over here talking about how you always believed he was still alive, but everybody else convinced you that he wasn't, which, yes, in a realistic sense, totally understandable. But it's like, she didn't even wait 4 years. She was already involved with somebody probably after 2. She probably, after 2 years, got married, because her kid's looks like she's a little over 1 year old. So that's already one of the 4 years. I'm just like, dude, that's not real love. That is just, I don't know. That's not real love to me. But I digress. But I just thought it was funny that my nieces felt the same way, and they were like, that's garbage. She couldn't wait. That's not real love. And it also just goes to show that it wasn't fated to be, because Chuck was never going to have this self-realization and become a better person and quit this job that motivated his whole life. He wasn't going to change any of that easily and be the partner that she needed him to be. This was always fated to not work in some degree. And that's why we have all the symbolism and messaging with the package that he keeps and the wings on it, and seeing at the beginning of the movie where that package is coming from had a man and a woman's name on it, and then at the very end of the movie it's just the woman's name on it, and she's associated with the wings and associated with being a part of why he stayed alive, because he wanted to deliver that package. It gave him hope. So it's showing this man's transformation, and on the other side of that still being hope for having another deep connection like he had before, but now more suited to the person that he was always fated and destined to be, which is somebody with much more self-reflection and honesty and compassion and no fear of death, because he already faced death a million times over on that island, you know? He came back and one of the first few things he said to his friend was, "I'm so sorry that I wasn't there for you when your wife died." Like, he could actually talk about it now. That's growth, that's transformation. And that's why I'm saying, like, the man that ends up telling her, like, "Hey, I should have never gotten on that plane," is not the same man that got on that plane. It was never going to work out that way unless she had waited 4 years. But anyways, that's me blabbing about Castaway and how great of a transformation story it exemplifies. Watch it or reflect, look within. I'm going to head home and shower and chill. Also, as I say in all my videos now, go outside, reconnect with your inner child. I know it sounds silly, but it helps. If you're feeling low, if you just need a moment to yourself, or if you want to share a walk with a loved one, go outside, go for a little walk, even if it's for 5 minutes, or go on a crazy ass 4-mile hike like I just did right now by myself. I've been coming here multiple times to reconnect with myself during a much needed time where I need to self-reflect. And each time I've come here, it's been like a different setup. Like, it's been super foggy because I usually get here super early in the mornings, and I'll get this whole vibe of picturing a movie that I loved when I was little that reminds me of the scenery of this fogginess. Or when I came back here by myself another time, it was heavily sprinkling, and that just made me feel full on like a kid playing in the rain. And I had my hat off, and which is a big deal for me, just letting the rain touch my head, and took off my shirt, had a tank top, and that's also a big thing for me. I've gone through a lot of weight issues during my transformation, and I don't know, just getting back to myself, depression, stress, anxiety, what have you. So all these things have been big things for me. This has been healing for me, and I'm not saying that all of these things exactly are going to be healing for you, but walking helps. Getting out of your environment and getting into nature does help. Like I said, even if it's for 5 minutes. When I was at a deep, dark depression, I would make myself walk for 5 minutes at least, just to get myself outside, and it would help recalibrate me. I would listen to the Lion King soundtrack on my headphones, and I would cry and I would walk, but I would feel some kind of hope again. And it was all connected to reconnecting to my inner child. So go for that walk, or watch a movie or a show or a cartoon that you loved when you were younger, and let it remind you of all the endless hope that you used to feel as a kid, and let that sink back into you today. All right? Don't forget, nothing happens overnight. You are the magic. Take care of yourself. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.